If the Roman Catholic Church is guided and protected by the Holy Spirit, as Roman Catholics claim and have claimed for a very, very long time, then surely that leadership would be in a direction of faithfulness and goodness and righteousness and honorability, and there wouldn't be any widespread calls for reform. Let's do a little bit of research and see if there are actually any widespread calls for reform in the Roman Catholic Church. Let's look at Grok and see if they find any calls for reform in the church. Yes, there are widespread calls for reform in the Roman Catholic Church as of September 2025. These demands span progressive, conservative, and traditionalist factions, often amplified through synodality, media coverage, and social media. So let's look at the areas that it says: governance and synodality, greater lay and women's involvement in decision making, pastoral councils, revisions to canon law, collaborative authority, clerical abuse and accountability, universal zero tolerance policies, financial transparency, and protocols for prevention and healing, liturgy and reverence, reforms to the Novus Ordo Mass for more Latin, chant, and orthodoxy, or the restoration of the traditional Latin Mass, celibacy and ordination, ending mandatory priestly celibacy, ordaining women deacons or married men in remote areas, doctrinal and social issues, clarity on marriage, sexuality, and social justice, and institutional renewal, ending corruption, restoring orthodoxy, and countering secularism and apostasy. Critics argue the church's institutional damage, from financial opacity to ideological infiltration, requires bold action. With strong voices from Europe, the Americas, and Africa, though implementation remains gradual amid resistance from conservatives wary of radical action. It's interesting how many widespread calls for reform there are all around the world from an institution that is stunningly guided and protected by the Holy Spirit, according to them. I want to make it clear that this is not an ironclad argument. Clearly, the early church had plenty of issues too, hence all of the epistles written by the Apostle Paul and so on. However, it's a warning sign. The church supposedly for 2,000 years has been lovingly guided and protected by the Holy Spirit, but yet there's calls from almost every single angle about trouble, problems, and issues in the church, the one true church, the only people who worship God, the only people who obey God, the only people who are submitted to God, the only people who pray to God, and they have trouble. It's a warning sign.